Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to Leadership is Me, the podcast that brings you raw, real conversations with everyday entrepreneurs who chose to rise. I'm your host, Blooming Dahlia, and each episode we dive into the mindset shifts, life lessons, as well as the defining moments that unlock something greater. So if you've ever felt called to more and just kind of don't know where to start, then this is the best place for you because leadership is not just a title, it's a choice, and that choice starts today. So today I am talking with Christine Peine, who is the founder of Create with Christine. She provides holistic business coaching to startup founders, coaches, as well as solopreneurs, if I can talk today. And so I am so excited, which is probably why I'm jumbled. I'm so excited to talk to her today. So Christine, how are you?
I'm amazing. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited for what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. As a coach's coach, I feel like there's no one way to coach and to really help people. So I'm really enjoying and going to be excited about kind of picking your brain to see how you got here today. So before I start, why don't you just give us maybe 30 seconds, like an overview of what it is that you do?
Yeah, so as you already said, I help entrepreneurs and I mainly help them to align their business with their true self so they can actually flow with creativity, with joy, and like enjoy what they've built. And I use therapeutic arts. I'm also a therapeutic art facilitator where we do like a lot of the inner work and also systems to then like do the outer work in the business to actually align the business to, yeah, flowing with oneself.
Now that's something that you really don't hear a lot when you're talking about art, you're talking about business. And so combining those two seems to be really unique. So how did you get into this field?
So I founded a startup many, many years ago. And when I founded this company, I didn't know anything about setting work boundaries. I didn't know anything about saying no in general. So I just worked. Like I took everything I learned from corporate and I just worked like the 12-hour days. I didn't take weekends. And even if I had free time, my mind was always going. And after about 2.5, 3 years of really overworking, I burned out. And when I was burned out and I was lying there in my bed looking at the ceiling and like not knowing what to do. I at one point I had this voice that came into my head and that just said like go and buy paint. And I listened. I went to the next dollar store. I bought like the cheapest acrylic, some brushes, a canvas. I went back home and I put like the garbage bag on my bed so that I wouldn't put paint on the bed. And I started painting. Like with no idea what to do. But like in the moment when I started, like for the first time in a long time, my mind went blank. Like it just went still. I was present in the moment. I didn't have all of the work thoughts and everything that was going on, and my body relaxed as well. And since then, I started painting and drawing, and I realized after some time that this is a thing that therapeutic art therapy is actually something that exists, and where you use art to calm down your nervous system, to regulate your body, and also to reprogram any limiting beliefs and things that flow around in your subconscious that might you get into burnout or that might get you not growing your business in the way you could. And that's when I started to use therapeutic art in business.
So I want to back up for 1 second because we're talking about burnout, and I find that as someone who I have what I jokingly call like corporate PTSD, sometimes I think we've all hit burnout, but a lot of times people don't even recognize that they've hit burnout. Like, they just keep kind of trucking through. As you said, you were thinking about business over the weekend, like there was no downtime. So how did you know, or what happened where you were like, oh, I'm fully burnt out? Like, what was that moment that you just knew?
Well, I like after all of this working and always being on, there came a time when I was in bed, I was staring at the ceiling and I couldn't get up. Like I didn't have any energy in my body to leave my bed. And so I stayed in bed and I was just lying in bed and I felt like really unhappy, really sad. And I kind of like I had an intuition that maybe I might have burnout or maybe I might have depression or something. And so after many weeks of this, I went to the doctor and then I did the online consultation. And yeah, the doctor told me most likely you have burnout. And so in that moment, I had kind of the confirmation of what I knew, but still, I didn't want to accept it. I was like, okay, well, yeah, now
Yeah.
it's like something. Maybe I go on a
I
little holiday and
not
then it will
me,
be
right?
fixed, you know? Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. I love that. So even through, like you said, having to accept it is also a big piece of it. You said something just told you to go get paint or to just paint, or you said like it was just something.
Yes, it was just this voice in my head that said, go buy paint." And literally, that's like the voice I heard, like from out of nowhere. I've always, like when I was young, I always was creative. That's something I stopped like in university, and then like when I was working in the startup. But it was just this voice that came into my head, and I was like, okay, well, if that's the thing to do, let's listen.
Love it, love it. So you just went with the flow. So what was the first thing you painted?
It wasn't a nice painting, so let's put it that way. I really didn't know what to paint, so I painted some kind of like brown mountain thingy. And then I didn't even really like the painting, but I felt so good in the moment. So I thought, okay, let's go onto YouTube. And then I started to paint sunsets. I went a lot to the beach to actually watch the sunset and connect because that's something that's also helped me a lot. So even today, like that's one of the main things I paint sunsets, the moon, the sun, like everything that's nature related.
So there's a picture behind you right now. Did you paint that?
Ah, yes, I did. Yes.
So at what point were you like, you know what, I need to turn this into a business?
Well, that took some time. So first I needed to focus on my own healing. For a few months I focused on myself. And then when I learned that the way I was approaching painting was okay, I want to have like a nice picture like this in the background. But I learned that there is a whole other field that's called therapeutic art or art therapy as well, where you use the paint and the drawing and any kind of materials to really work with your subconscious mind. And the result is not important. So the paintings and the pictures you get at the end, they don't look like this. They're things that you wouldn't
Oh, I love
want to put
that.
on your wall. But it's like you connect so much with the process that actually you do a lot of inner work and a lot of healing. And that's when I was so intrigued that I found a master's and I did a master's degree. And only in the master's degree, I thought, this is interesting. I want to teach this to people. And so, like, slowly I started doing workshops and like really going in slowly.
So you said something that really stood out to me. You said like it's not about the end result of the painting. It's just about immersing in the moment. For most of us, we're going to go into painting and we want our painting to be perfect, like everything perfect within the lines. So how did you let go of that need to have the perfect painting, but just immerse yourself into the process?
When I did the masters, there were a lot of practices that actually taught you to go into the moment. And what I do now with my clients is I start with a meditation and also tell them
Mm.
beforehand it's not about the outcome. And usually, once someone experiences the first time, like painting really from a place like letting go, like not being connected to what it should become, they have so much fun and also they notice like the shifts that take place, like all of the perfectionism and everything that falls away,
Yeah.
that usually that this is like the turning point where people understand, okay, wow, I can use like painting or like creating in any format where I just enjoy the moment without being attached to what should be the painting at the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say it definitely is a lesson, not just for the actual painting, but just for life, like being able to, kind of let go and just let life be or really live in the moment. And so it's interesting to hear that you can get that type of lesson through just, as you said, a Dollar Tree acrylic acrylic bottle of paint and a paintbrush. I love the fact that you said you focused on your healing first, which I think is key because I always go back to a biblical scripture that says like our cup runneth over. People are supposed to get the overflow, but we have to be whole first. So, what were some of the things that, as you started going through the process, that you started uncovering or learning about yourself?
I learned about a lot of limiting beliefs that I was holding around the identity that I was trying to create as an entrepreneur. So, first of all, I took all of the perfectionism that I learned from my childhood and then in university that helped me to be best of my class into like creating a business. But in your business, you cannot be a perfectionist because you will never finish. You will always work. And most likely it's not gonna help you to get clients or sell your products because it's not about having the perfect thing. So that was one of the things. And then like really like finding this identity shift, because when I started a startup, of course I went in there wanting to help people, but somewhere in my mind I was also thinking, yeah, maybe like in a few years I put in all of this work, all of this hustle, and then it will be super successful and I don't have to do anything anymore. And then learning, okay, it's not like this. Creating a business takes time, and the few ones that make millions and millions of euros that are or dollars that are, that's not for most of us. We make enough money, we might live a really nice life, but we're not gonna be in this huge identity that I personally was trying to create for myself. And so like all of the overworking came from these two parts. And I had to really let go of that, and like letting go of this hustling mentality that kind of was connected. Okay, if I hustle, I will be successful, but that's not how it works in business.
So you feel like your definition of success changed from before you started to now?
Yes, 100%. Before, my definition of success was, okay, I want to have this company that helps millions and millions of people around the world, and I make a lot of money and don't have to do a lot. Now, my definition of success, I still want to impact a lot of people and help people, but I value my free time and I value my life a lot
Mm.
more than actually make like sitting in front of my computer to make all of this money. So now I have, let's say, maybe a more modest lifestyle. I still travel a lot because I love it and I do all the things I love, but I wouldn't do like all of the overwork and sit there on the weekends just to get to a certain point of making money, because in the end, the money, like, what's the money worth it if you don't have the time for your life?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we define success and leadership by what we see or what the outside world, excuse me, is always telling us. Like I said, like it's supposed to be millions of dollars falling from the sky and this and that. And we strive to that without actually really asking ourselves what really makes me happy or puts me at peace. And for most people, it is just making sure that you have enough to just kind of do what you want to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be this mountainous overflow. So did you have as you were going through this journey and even now in your business, did you have a support system? And if so, what did that look like?
Yes. So I had a lot of coaches along the way that helped me reprogram a lot of these limiting beliefs, but also in like growing my business and aligning my business. Then my friends, my family, my partner, like my social circle as well as a big support system. And then I think the practices, the rituals that I do for myself to make sure I stay in alignment and I'm not falling out of track with who I am, like trying to run behind some shiny object that doesn't even exist, is also part of the support system that I built for myself.
Now that's the first time I've ever heard that. Like someone define the support system as what they do for themselves. So if you mind sharing, what are some of the practices that you have to keep yourself focused? And as you said, not running to chase after the shiny object.
Yeah, so it's a practice of being present. So I take in the morning, I take a lot of time to move my body, to sit in meditation, to paint and draw and just be present with myself and what I want for myself in that day, also how I feel, because as a woman, I go through, you might notice, I mean, we go through a lot of
It's like
emotions
this.
in ours. Exactly. So I cannot perform every day like the best version of myself, because there's days when my body just asks me to rest. And so like for me, it's like really like this time that I tune in and ask, okay, what is important today? How much energy do I even have? And then go in alignment with that. And then also throughout the day, pause and connect to myself. So if I feel like that I'm kind of like stressing and I want to get all of these tasks done, I usually know, okay, there's something unconsciously going on, whatever story might be, whatever limiting belief, that makes me then pause and say, okay, what is this? Because from this kind of energy, I'm not gonna create something that's actually helpful.
That's beautiful. Being aware of when there's what I'll call a foreign energy trying to come in and noticing it and not just embracing it or becoming one with it and running down the street with it. So knowing that you started in one place, and that you used art to heal you and then to grow into this business, as you're going through and as you're attempting to help others, do you ever feel that you have imposter syndrome?
Yes, it definitely. So when I started, I had huge imposter syndrome. I remember like the first workshops I was doing, I was so afraid that no one would show up. And then even if people would show up, probably more afraid that people would show up. And then I had to like provide the practices. But then,
Mhm.
of course, throughout the practice, throughout doing more workshops, throughout working with more clients, it gets smaller. But even now, when I get a new opportunity, that's like something completely different. For example, when I started to do podcasts or speaking in front of podcasts, the imposter was coming in telling me, you're not good enough to do all of these things. But I think it's always a practice again of being present, to recognizing in this moment there is this voice that tells me I can't do this, and then asking, okay, is this really me, and how is this helping me? And then usually just by being present, it goes away.
Love that. So again, it goes back to again kind of the art, if we do a play on word, the art of just being in the moment and not even judging it, right? Like I think people are terrified or the imposter syndrome mentality. Like I really wish or want people to understand everyone has it. Like it does not matter how successful the individual is. At some point, they looked across and thought that maybe they're not good enough, or you question yourself. But it is just about not necessarily waiting for the thought to go away. I think a lot of people get stuck because they're wanting the moment to pass. Like, when I feel secure enough is when I'll do it. But the security almost comes after the act, right? Like, do you agree that like the more you did it, the more it was like, oh, okay, like I am indeed good enough.
Yes, and I mean, you can't run away from this feeling. It's in your body. It's here in this moment. And the more we try to run away from it, or maybe say, okay, we do something later, I feel like the louder it gets until you say no to whatever it was that you wanted to do, until you say no to your dreams in the worst case scenario. So it's like for me, it's all about like working with this feeling, and being present is an amazing tool. Doing art, so I do a lot of art with my clients where we go into one specific feeling, which might be imposter syndrome, and see where this lives in the body, how this feels in the body, and then put that onto the paper, because it loses a lot of charge just by putting it onto the paper and seeing it for what it
Mm.
truly is. So yeah, I think that at the end, it's just like being with the feeling, whatever comes up, if it's imposter syndrome or whatever other kind of feeling, because otherwise it's just gonna get louder and it's not gonna help you.
So how do you deal with rejection? Because it is inevitable.
Yes. No, it's inevitable. And just the other day, I applied to a podcast I really wanted to be on, and today I read the email of like, okay, no, we don't want to have you. So how do I deal with rejection? So first, I feel it. Of course, when someone rejects me, I feel there is a sense of maybe sadness because I really wanted this, or anger, or whatever other feeling came up. I feel the feeling. A lot of times I then draw it out, just even if it's like a 5 minute sketch that doesn't have to look in any specific way, but just to get the feeling out. And then I tell myself there will be another opportunity and go on with the next thing, because something else will come. And I mean, look at us today. We're sitting here now and doing a podcast. So I mean, the next opportunity always comes.
I love that. As you were talking, it just kind of made me think of I journal a lot. And I've noticed that like if I'm happy, like my handwriting is really neat. But if I'm not necessarily in the best mindset or what have you, it's like really big and not necessarily on the lines. And again, I think that's just such a good perspective to have, that it never ever has to be perfect. As long as you release whatever it is, feel whatever it is, and take ownership of it, everything will at a certain point settle back and you'll be able to move forward. I feel like when people are looking to grow and change, they have these mountain moments. And a mountain moment for me, or to define it, is there's something that occurs that at a certain point will make you want to do like a full about face, right? Whether it's something big, like for some people, it's I was in the process of growing my business and got a divorce, or someone, really close to me passed away. Like, did you have that mountain moment where it was like, okay, I can either really, really fight through this and keep going, or let me just stop?
Yes, I had many mountain moments along the way, and I think they will always come in. I believe they help you to grow. One that I can think of right now is when I was starting to grow my business, and like now clients were coming in, and actually I was feeling really good, and I was still continuing with the startup at the same time, but I didn't really reduce some of the tasks that weren't in my alignment anymore. And then at one point I woke up in the middle of the night and I had like intense wrist pain from nothing. I don't know what I did in my sleep, but I had like this intense wrist pain, and I was hoping it would go away, but it didn't go away. And in the end, I had it for like 4 or 5 weeks. I went to different doctors, they did the tests, and they were all like, yeah, it's like has to be your mind, or maybe it's like some inflammation or whatever. Like no one could really make sense of it. And I'm a big believer of like all of the diseases, everything that happens in our body have some root in a thought or like a limiting belief. And I actually have a book that connects like these different pieces of like how you feel in your body with the metaphysical causes, so the cause behind this disease. And so I was reading up on it, and it said that if you have pain in your wrist, it usually comes from intense self-criticism. And when I was reflecting on
Wow.
that, I noticed that I was criticizing myself internally because at some point in my life, I picked up this belief I can only do one thing. And now doing two things didn't align with this belief.
Mm.
And so I had to really go in there, stop the self-criticism and reprogram and say, okay, I'm a person with many interests. I want to do different things, and it's okay. And then after I reprogrammed that over time, like the wrist pain actually, like I felt a relief in the moment, and then over time it went away.
I'm so in love with the things that you're saying, because I feel like what you're really saying is that like there's a choice that you make. You can either just accept, or you can research and make and make a decision. The fact that you didn't just accept the pain, wrap your wrist up, or just be like, okay, now I can't write anymore, I can't paint anymore. Because I would also find that very interesting that your wrist would start to hurt, considering, that that's the world that you kind of live in, that you decided to research it and then took that information to, as you said, retrain and reprogram your thought process. I think is a good thing for people to really see that sometimes things are not always just what they appear to be. Like, really take a step back and look at it. Rick said, research it, find out, is there something else that could be going on with regards to this? So you have said that, you take art. So how do you use it for people with regards to their business?
So when we start our business, when we run our business, I always like to think of our business as like a relationship we have. It's like really a really close relationship, and it's a mirror of what's going on inside. So whatever we have deep down in there, when we run our business, it will come up. Whatever limiting belief it might be. Like in this example, I was holding this limiting belief of I can only have one thing. So our business will make this visible at one point, and maybe we see it through pain in our body, maybe we self-sabotage, maybe we're not growing, or whatever else is going on. What we can do with art, we can make these beliefs that are living in our body that we're not aware of, we can make them visible. So when I work with clients one-on-one, we go into a deep meditative state. And then from there, we already see, okay, what's the direction we're going? And after that, we express whatever they felt, whatever came up in the meditation on paper. And usually then when my clients look at the drawing afterwards, it becomes really clear that there was a belief, and there might still be, depending on how deep this belief is rooted, and what this belief is and how it's interacting in their life. So kind of the drawing gives them a lot of information. And already in this process of drawing, by making what is happening in the subconscious mind, by making it visible, it loses a little bit of charge because we're making it present, we're becoming aware of it. Maybe with one drawing, we can erase this belief and program in a new belief. Or if it's something deeper that's connected, maybe more in the childhood with different other beliefs, we might need to do a few drawings. but then actually we can erase these beliefs. And of course, then we can interact or act different in our business. Maybe it's showing up more confident, or maybe it's finally saying yes to these opportunities that are actually going to help us grow, but we've been too afraid before. And so just by reprogramming what's happening, we can grow our business in a more aligned and sustainable way.
So just for clarity, so when you say reprogram, is it daily practices like meditation, or are you including hypnosis? Is it like, so when you, what does that mean in totality when you say, helping people to reprogram?
Usually it's a session. So when I work with clients one-on-one, it's like we have a session per week, and in this one session, we focus on one specific thing. And depending on what it is, only in this one session, we can change this belief. So maybe instead of reprogramming, I can say, we had a belief before, like the belief I had, I can only hold one thing, and then changing that, but not only in our mind, but also in our body, where usually these beliefs live, to, okay, I can actually hold different things and I can be successful at different things. And then, of course, afterwards, it's the practice of actually doing the acts in the business. And that really depends on where the person I work with is at and what they need in the moment. For some, it's integrating a little ritual. For others, it's adapting a structure in their business, working differently. So there it really depends.
So when you first started this process, going back to the very beginning, what I think I heard was like you did not necessarily see yourself as a leader. You went through a process that kind of helped that evolve in you. So, obviously the name of this is Leadership is Me. So why do you feel that you are a leader now?
That's a very good question. I feel I'm a leader now because I can be present in the moment with whatever comes up, and then from this presence act instead of react. And this means when I'm, for example, talking to my assistant, that I can actually be present with her and help her with whatever that has to be done in the moment. Same for when I work with my clients. Instead of, because my client might say something that triggers something in me, and instead of then reacting to that, or maybe I had happening something in my day, instead of reacting to that, then actually acting from this place of presence and leading my client or my assistant or whoever else it might be in my life from this, from this conscious present place.
Awesome. And I think I would also just like to add to that how much you led yourself is, really that was one thing that definitely was a thread throughout this, is that you led yourself through the same journey that you're leading others through. And that's a beautiful thing, because not only are you, I feel, able to resonate with people as they go through the journey and even as they understand, how art can assist them with growth. You're able to see it from not the finish line. I feel like we never ever hit the total finish line, but you're able to see it, a few miles down the road. Like, if you keep this up, this is what you'll get out of this. So finish this sentence for me. Leadership to you is.
So if I would say to a client, leadership to you is, yeah, I think it always comes back to leading from presence. Like leadership to you, to me, is being present with what is right now and acting from that place.
Beautiful. So where can people find you, and what other things do you have on the horizon?
So people can connect with me on Instagram. There I'm called Create with Christine, and it's create.with.christine. Just send me a message. I'm always open and happy to talk. You don't need to buy anything, just like have the connection. And I like to just hear about other people's journeys and stories, because I think we can learn a lot from each other. And then if you're not on Instagram, on my website, christinepeine.com, there I have all of the information as well. Reach out to me, send me a message, and yeah, let's just talk and connect.
Awesome. And I will make sure to post her actual information for you to see it written out, like once the podcast is done. But thank you so much, Christine. Again, as something that we shared kind of off camera before we started, was I learned that I had a passion for art and for painting. As a matter of fact, more furniture rehab, but it came the exact same way, because I went through something major that put me in a very depressive state, and I needed to change my environment. And similar, it was like something was like, just go get some paint. Like I'll just paint a table. And I ended up painting tables, reupholstering chairs. Like it was a whole moment of me just not necessarily escaping my problems, but creating silence within myself to get in touch with me. The amount of clarity and peace and guidance that you get from that space is so powerful, and it does create a wholeness in you that you probably either you have never met before, or you just don't know. So again, thank you so much, Christine. And so thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Leadership is Me. If today's story sparks something in you, share it, sit with it, but most importantly, take a step. So again, whether that's going to Dollar Tree and getting some paint and a paintbrush and just painting a sun one day, or even if it's just going to an art museum and just walking around and embracing the beauty that others have poured out into this world. Because there's not necessarily one definition of peace, just like there's not one definition of leadership. The peace that you're looking for, as well as the leader that you're looking for, is already inside of you. So until next time, stay empowered. Tapping into our creativity, we can look at it as something only kids do, often forgetting that that's where we started. I very clearly remember laying on the floor in my home and drawing, and I drew every day because drawing for me, again, it was an escape. And kind of as Christine alluded, you get away from that once you go into working and getting married and having kids. Everything becomes adult, right? Everything becomes that you have to be this particular way in order to be judged effectively by a courtroom of your peers. When the truth of the matter is, the only courtroom and the only peers that you need to really concern yourself with is the one that's in here, right? It's the one that's in here. It's that still silent voice that's, as Christine said, told her to go get paint. That still silent voice is the one that's always going to lead you in the direction that is best for you because it has your best interest in mind. So as I said, even if you've never drawn before, pick up a piece of paper and just draw some circles. Do a paint pour, where you just take random paint colors and pour them over a vase or something. Create something for your home that comes from the inner part of you. And I think you'll be very, very surprised at the amount of beauty that you're able to release when you just embrace the natural beauty that is inside of you. Until next time.